Hello and welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, India's only daily television platform for small businesses. Over the past 7 years, we've understood what matters most to you, the entrepreneur, and in year 8, we're taking head-on 2 of the most pressing concerns, that of funding and mentoring. I'm Sunanda Jayaseelan. On the show tonight, we're talking digital transformation of small businesses. What does it look like? What should it look like? And what you, the entrepreneur of an SMB and a startup, should understand when it comes to the changing laws around data protection and security. Let me quickly introduce our panel tonight. First up, I want to introduce Sheila Nambiar, Senior Sales Director, Oracle Digital Prime at Oracle. We have Sandeep Dhar, President, Customer Experience Transformation at Hexaware. Abhijit Bham, Head of Digital Experience at Future Factory. And last but not the least, Puneet Bhasin, International Cyber Law Expert. Thank you to everyone who's here in our studios today talking about what the digital transformation should look like, what it looks like right now for small businesses, and your experience really, given the wealth of experience we have and the varied experience we have on the panel tonight. But let's start by talking about what does and what should the digital transformation for a small business look like. Maybe I can start on my left. Puneet, let me come to you first. In your experience, what does that look like?
Well, small businesses are normally hesitant for a digital transformation because of the cost involved. But definitely keeping in line with now the principles of the EU GDPR and again our data protection bill, which soon may be enacted to become a law, it's going to be pretty mandatory even for small businesses to incorporate data protection and technology. The only way you can actually have data protection, especially of digital technology, is when you start having a grip over everything in your organization, which on a lot of manual levels is not possible. So they will have to move the technology way, they will have to invest in cybersecurity, data protection, the entire, you could say, journey which big corporates have gone through, the smaller businesses will also have to go through.
Okay. Sitting where you are at Hexaware, Sandeep, what's it really looking like?
Well, if you kind of look at the history of computerization, the first couple of decades went in organizations automating specific functions in their organization. So they automated sales, they automated payroll, they automated finance, so on and so forth. And the next couple of decades went in stitching this all together at an enterprise level. The current period is one where we see this going a step further, and now organizations trying to connect with each other. So the entire ecosystem is now getting connected and automated. Okay. So in this context, it is no longer an option for a small business to stay out of the digital journey. In the past, they could say, hey, I don't want to computerize my function. I'm a small organization, my overheads are less. But now if they don't computerize, they will not be able to participate in the ecosystem, so it's an imperative.
Okay, so cost is definitely something I'm picking up from this side of the panel. But what should it look like, Sheila? In your experience, what you've seen at Oracle working so closely with small businesses, I want your perspective.
Yes. So Sunanda, a couple of things. So one is in terms of the, like Sandeep mentioned, there is no way out of it, right? I mean, you have to have digitization. Now, the maturity levels of different companies are different, and they adopt technology the way they think is right to do. But in my mind, what companies are doing today is really looking at a holistic approach, looking at how they would want to transform themselves to firstly acquire new customers, second it to be more agile so that they are able to do different things with their same set of customers, and thirdly manage their skills and resources who can actually take this new responsibilities and go up the chain, right? So they are obviously struggling with a lot of this, three things that they have right now in their plate, and many of them are taking it one step at a time. So you would see companies who are only investing in certain technologies to be able to cater to a specific market, or probably they would also look at expanding their existing wallet share of customers through another technology. So it's a mixed approach right now.
Okay, so on one hand we're hearing cost, but it is imperative. Abhijit, you work very closely with businesses, consulting them on a variety of things, including the use of technology and digital transformation. Talk to us about that.
So I have a little different take on what on technology, right? I want to paraphrase Bill Gates. When Gates says that business and automation, there's a relationship. When talking about if a business has solid business processes, automation is going to make it super efficient, amplify your business. But if a business process in your business is not right, automation will amplify the inefficiency.
Sure.
So it's not just about technology, right? It's important because you're talking about digital transformation. But the idea is, could we really understand in your business, do you understand your stakeholders? Do you understand the intent of your stakeholders, being customers, suppliers, vendors, the whole bit, employees as well? And what do you really need to do? Do you understand their journey that they have with your brand, the way they interact with your brand? Are you clear about it? Once you are clear about it and you put a layer of technology on top of that, that's when I think things will really, really amplify.
Sure.
That's my take on it.
Okay, so let's then break this down. There are a couple of things that I do want to discuss for today's panel. One is the cost, sort of aspect that has come about. I want to talk skilling. I want to talk about how businesses should look at the transformation. Perhaps the most important piece is the manpower or, the people involved. And really sort of break it up to talk about the fact that it's great for small businesses to necessarily have a digital transformation, because even as more and more technology is coming in and digitization and digital transformation is coming in, it means that you are increasingly using that, and therefore hiring independence, if I can call it that, really on people, and therefore the costs involved are going to come down. How would you want for small businesses to approach this? How should they be hiring? How should they be skilling? How should they be looking at what are increasingly becoming present skills of machine learning, AI, etc.? Open to everyone on the panel, but maybe I can come to you first, Sheila.
Yeah, skills and the right resources for the business is one of the biggest challenges SMEs are facing with, right? They obviously don't have the deep pockets like the large corporates to pay, as well as to retain the employees. So I think a couple of things that they need to think about. One is in terms of when it comes to hiring, there is definitely a plan for them to reskill them. I mean, there has to be a plan to reskill, because typically what I hear from most of the SMEs is what they get from the market today are not really employable, right? Yeah. So there has to be a plan to do that, and there has to be also an excitement for the resource to stay back in the companies, and hence a lot of technology is another thing that SMEs are trying to adapt. For example, if you look at AI and machine learning today, most of the products, technology products, are embedded with this technology, right? So you would have to then have a mix of resources and technology to be able to do your stuff, right? So so that's something which they have to think about, and I think the bigger challenge will be into retaining these resources.
Okay. So how are you doing it? Can you give us one specific example from Oracle in terms of how you're perhaps training your employees to make them more future ready, and use that as an example for our small businesses, say this is how you should train, this is how you should look at these skill sets?
Yes. So one of the things that we're doing, for example, for Oracle especially, we've been mainly focused on large businesses in the past, right? Yeah. It's the large corporates in terms of banks and telcos. The team that I lead, which is the Oracle Digital Prime, we are looking at firstly, recruiting, employees which have about 3 to 8 years of experience. We're looking at training them on digital sales, which is basically trying to connect to customers through various medium. It's not only face-to-face connection, but through digital, through social, to be able to bring in new customers into our organization. And thirdly, the kind of infrastructure they've put together, which really is obviously exciting for them. But the most important point here is that the entire team is focused on developing the SMB market in India, right? So we are really looking at moving into tier 1, tier 2 cities, trying to talk to SME clients in that space, and offering them solutions which are affordable to that space. So we've actually reworked on the entire solution set, which is actually catering to the SME segment, and like I usually put it, it's sachet-sized offerings that we are giving to the customers to be able to, for them to adopt technology as quickly as possible. Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying sachet-sized, and that's for small businesses, and I want to also come to you, Sandeep, and ask how, as a large organization, the lessons that you've learned when it comes to working with these future technologies, hiring the right skill sets, training your employees, training yourselves as well.
Sure. So, our view is that, technologies will keep changing.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the key things that we look for when we are recruiting people is their learning ability, their learning quotient. So if people have a good learning quotient, whatever new technologies keep coming up, they will find ways to get trained on it. They will be more receptive to training. They'll take more initiative in getting trained. So keeping that in mind, what we also have is we have an elaborate program. We call it Evolve. And using the framework in Evolve, an employee can select which path he wants to take, and he can pick and choose courses which help him specialize in a particular path and constantly upgrade his skill set in that area.
Okay, I'm going to take a very quick break on that note, but much more on the other side. Just stay tuned. We'll come back and talk about digital transformation of small businesses. Welcome back with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow. And tonight on The Crux, we're talking about digital transformation and the digital transformation roadmap for small businesses. So again, open to the entire panel, may not be very relevant for small businesses, but is it imperative in today's day and age for small businesses to have a CTO, someone who understands what's really going on and is able to, understand then data security, what needs to really be done? What's the opinion on this panel?
Definitely, I believe that even a small business, the moment you are adopting technology, so if you have traditional staff which is still not adept to the same, and if the business owners are also from a traditional mindset, then you need to have somebody who's technology savvy and who is cybersecurity savvy who steps in. So definitely that's a major role in an organization that has to be taken up, because the existing staff will not suddenly migrate into everything. They need to be made to transition into that, and somebody has to head that entire activity.
Sure.
I think just to add on to what Puneet said, right? The challenge also might be in terms of attracting that quality of CTO to come on board.
Yeah.
So managed service could be a route to also look at it, kind of get an external CTO, somebody who's really capable. But the more importantly, the SMB, the entrepreneur, needs to be able to raise his hand and say, what, I really see value in this. I understand business, I understand HR, I understand finance, I understand sales, but I can't raise my hand and say I don't understand technology. If I don't, I need to understand, I need to invest in it like a capital investment, and then get maybe a managed service to kind of really make an impact.
Sure.
So the other thing, see, a small business will never have enough investment rupees or dollars to build a large team. Okay, so they have to prioritize what will they hire. Okay, so on the technology side, I believe they just need a thin layer, and everything else can be procured in an outsourced fashion through managed services, as Abhijit said. What they instead have to do is they need to build capabilities to define the customer experience. Okay, if the customer experience, and that part can't be outsourced. Okay, a business understands their own world the best. So they need to identify what the customer experience would look like, whether they are selling to a customer or they are servicing a customer. And the second thing that they need to do is they need to adopt technologies like the cloud to keep their costs down.
Sure.
They don't have money to build data centers. So from day one, they need to adopt the cloud, and the cloud comes by default with certain things. A great amount of security is already built into the cloud. Okay, so you don't need to spend separately on it.
Sure.
So these are some of the things which...
Okay, so all of those points being considered, I want to come back to you, Abhijit, and talk about the fact that you work so closely with small businesses. Maybe you can start and the rest of the panel can pitch in one or two of the biggest challenges that businesses are telling you they're facing when it comes to adoption of technology and in the digital transformation journey. Cost, definitely, but anything besides that you want to talk about?
I would kind of split this into two kinds of people, right?
Okay.
The micro, small, mid-size enterprises who are like maybe 10 crores, under 10 crores, which is pretty much a massive population in this country, right? I mean, in terms of the entrepreneurial population, quite a lot of people fit there. Their set of challenges are very different. It's a complete mindset challenge. The intention might be there, but the willingness to actually take the next step They almost need like a do-it-yourself kind of transformation thing. They can't afford a service. They probably need the G Suites of the world, the Office 365s to really make a difference. But the point is, the mindset that I want to make a change needs to be there. And the SMBs, primarily, I think the biggest challenge that I sense there is the lack of an overall strategy of digitalization. Is the strategy in place? And the strategy needs to be aligned with your business strategy, right? So the point is, you can do a lot of micro things, but you got to look at the forest through the trees. Can you have a macro view on things? So I think a lack of digital strategy is probably what these guys really at the SMP level need to look at.
Okay. What does data security for a small business look like? What should small businesses be aware of in terms of where perhaps the leaks could happen, if I can call it that, at the different levels of a business?
See, well, basically on a very broad level, if we are looking at external threat actors and internal threat actors with respect to data leaks in an organization. Large organizations, they have this entire thing well defined, a structure built accordingly. But in a small organization, first of all, the identification of external threat actors never happens because they have never deployed preventive security. They have never gone about penetration testing to know what kind of threat actors are acting on them. Internal threats, they're abundant because in a small organization, you're allowing employees to bring your own devices. So if you don't have strong norms of BYOD, you don't have mobile device management, on a lot of levels, data is leaking. So till now in India, we never had a data protection law, so a lot of things simply flew by. So data breaches flew by, data was flying from one organization to another, data being sold. One employee said, the common trend, if you see today, is an employee leaves one organization, carries the data of this organization to another organization. And sadly, the HR practice of hiring also involves like what is the employee bringing on the table. Now, when we are looking at data protection, again, if the bill is passed and even with the EU GDPR norms that exist, this entire cycle of data exchanges cannot happen. So even in a small organization, you're looking at investment into people with respect to data protection, where you explain to them, so the Indian culture of sharing has to stop. So excessive sharing with third parties, going about sharing floating data on social media about your organization, about things happening in the organization, any critical information, nothing can be shared. And a device level security. So which is all your devices in the organization have to be controlled. So you cannot have open-ended devices. Currently, the way in small organizations it happens. You need to have device level, software level security, physical level security of devices that has to be brought about. The next thing is software level security for the entire enterprise. So you may be deploying technology, but let's say you have customer data, you have data with respect to your vendors, etc. And all that data, you have used technology, you have started doing everything, but if you're not able to secure it, the liability under law is upon you for failure to protect the data.
Sure. For a small business, it says, okay, I do know I need to protect my data, cost, etc. How do you want to answer that? Is cloud perhaps the answer, and what should they know about it?
So I don't know if I have the answer, but I know what the problem is. The point is, I'm thinking if I'm an SMB, my biggest concern right now is, my God, what's my cost going to be like? And the question should really be asked is, what's the cost of not doing going to be like, right? What will happen if I don't do it? And even if I want to do it, my challenge is going to be, where do I start? Who do I talk to? Do I call up Oracle? Do I call up Hexaware? Who do I call? What do I start? So I think there has to be, he needs more kind of information there as well as to what he should be doing in that sense.
All right, I think we're running out of time on this panel, and this, while there's so much to talk about, at least we've set some sort of a framework in terms of what businesses should look at when we're talking data security, when we're talking digital transformation of SMBs. As we're running out of time, let me take closing comments. Maybe I can come to you first, Abhijit. Most of the SMBs that we talk to are not based in the metros, as we know. How, in all your conversations and interactions with them, how are small businesses approaching perhaps their digital transformation journey if they're not based outside the metros? What advice would you want to leave them with through this interview?
So I'll tell you what, I think somewhere along the line, right, if you look at technology, look at e-commerce adoption, tier 2, tier 3 cities at a consumer level are way ahead compared to, we're seeing a lot of transactions happening there. And I think what I'm saying, I see the same trend happening pretty much in the SMB space as well. Living in a tier 1 city, sometimes an SMB feels entitled. We had this sense of entitlement, saying, oh, I know everything. But an SMB who's probably in a tier 2, tier 3 city has fire in the belly And I think it's pretty much more progressive in terms of adoption of a lot of things. I was just discussing with Sheila, and she was mentioning that a lot of tier 2, tier 3 cities is where these guys are doing business. And I was surprised. So which means I don't think really they need to, I think tier 1 city needs to start learning from tier 2 and tier 3. And saying, what can we be as progressive as what these guys are trying to do? That's my take on it.
Okay. Sheila and Sandeep, maybe the two of you can comment on this. As people who are leading these large teams that are required to undergo the digital transformation, how are you all upskilling, training, learning yourselves? Because everything is changing even as we speak when we're talking technology and digital. How are you doing that, and any insights for leaders of SMBs who are watching this interview about how you're doing it?
Yes. So from my perspective, I think we learn a lot from customers, right? And like Abhijit rightly said, we work with tier 2, tier 3 customers and in different industries, right? From banking to retail to manufacturing. So there is lots for us to learn from the way we need to kind of look at our solutions to be able to cater to their needs. Similarly, from SMB perspective, I think there is so much of technology that's being discussed right now. I mean, and there's so much that we have to actually look at in terms of utilizing that for your businesses, and rightly so, because there is so much of new innovations in the technology that's happening. So I think there is enough to learn, and from my team's perspective, I think we are constantly in discussions with our customers to see what they need, what are their specific needs, which is very different from an enterprise space, right? So, and how do we cater to their requirements? Yeah.
All right.
Well, definitely learning from customers is a big source of information.
Okay.
Apart from that, we have the ability to hire the best brains and minds in this space.
Sure.
And we do that and we leverage them. And then, I think e-learning is a very powerful tool for whether you are a large company, whether you are an SMB, you can create e-learning programs or you can rent e-learning programs to stay abreast of the latest as well.
Sure. Okay. So much more to discuss when it comes to the digital transformation for small businesses and what that roadmap for them should look like. Unfortunately, out of time on this panel, but if you have any specific questions about what it means for your business when it comes to your digital transformation, do get in touch with us. We will connect you with our experts on the show. Also, if you have any other feedback, do let us know. Our contact details up on your screens in just a moment. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.